Welcome in, everybody, to the Lastella Report. Happy Sunday night here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. It's a special edition because we've got news to talk about in the FAU world. Robbie Lastella, AJ Johnson here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. AJ, what's going on?
Is this my first appearance on the Lastella Report?
It might be.
I mean, except for back in the days when you were on Bleacher Brothers, like Tracy Ullman and The Simpsons. But yeah, I think this is my first appearance on the Bleacher Brothers Report. I mean, on the Lastella Report. So I
We're like the
appreciate you
Cleveland
having me.
show. We're like the Cleveland show, and you guys are the Family Guy. I'm a fan of Cleveland show. Not a lot of people liked it, though.
I've never even heard of it.
Well, there you go. You got to watch it. It's a good off spin, all about Cleveland Brown. Um, but it got canceled. Like a couple of people we know this I guess Bloody Sunday in the NFL. It's called Black Monday after Thanksgiving, where they fire coaches the Monday after Thanksgiving. The Sunday after bowl eligibility gets thrown out the window for some teams, or if you're in the case of FSU. You've just had such a bad season that you got to let people go. But for FAU, coaching decisions were made. Tom Herman opted to let go of defensive coordinator Rock Bellantoni and offensive line coach and associate head coach Ed Warner. Now, both of these decisions are ones that I could have seen coming 100% at the end of the season. I mean, it's not necessarily Rock's fault. It's not necessarily Ed's fault. But when teams lose, especially in year two, a lot of it becomes to a point where changes have to be made. Now, I don't know if it's drastic enough to the point of a head coach change. So that's where we're at right now with coordinators. And FAU opted to let go of Rock Bellantoni before the season. And according to their press release, Herman talked with Ed Warner, and Ed wants to pursue other opportunities. And so now they feel like they can start the process earlier for that. And FAU will look to try to, I guess, push through this finish line as fast as possible.
Why? I mean, did this strike you by surprise that this all happened today? Did you have any sort of insider info or inkling that all this crap was going to happen now, which seems like a weird day since they got destroyed on Thursday? Friday, Saturday, why wait until today to get this over and done with?
I don't know about necessarily the timing. It definitely did catch me by surprise. But that's how sports news works. It always comes when you're not expecting it. And so, like I said, I think if the move happened at the end of the season, I would be unfazed, really. And I think it probably would have gone over a little bit better than it did. We're seeing a couple of the players on social media expressing displeasure. Des Tisdall quote tweeted a post from Owl's Nest and said you're something to the effect of you're letting go of one of the best coaches. And so, it's just really the timing of it is a bit odd to me, actually. It is what it is at this point. You've already reached 7 losses, and firing the two coaches right now isn't necessarily going to change anything, in my opinion. You'll get a look at what Brandon Harris, at defensive coordinator, a guy who many think is a rising coach and could potentially be a DC right now. Maybe not at FAU, but maybe a little bit lower. But still, he's a guy that a lot of people are respect in the coaches world, and this is his shot now to show what he can do at DC. I do think FAU does go out and do a full search on a national level to try to bring somebody in. But that they opt to do this now, give Harris a shot. We'll see how that affects things.
You know this team better than I do, and you know the players better than I do. So if the players are unhappy today, I don't know if it's sad or if they're pissed or somewhere in between. But now you have somebody else stepping in these shoes. What is it? What is it that makes you think or makes FAU think that somebody new, whoever it is just going to be able to flip a switch and mysteriously get a look at what it's going to be like next year, when in reality, Well, these players are going to be gone next year anyway, and new players will be here.
Yeah, that's it's definitely a bit of an interest. I because I like I said, I personally was a bit surprised. Just because of how important it is to maintain player relationships, especially in today's age of college football. Relationships are everything. I think, and to see, I mean, at the end of the day, when any coach gets fired, even when Mike Houston, a guy who's had pretty consistent losing at ECU for 6 years gets canned. There's still guys who come out in support of him just because at the end of the day, a lot of these coaches are still really, really good people. And so, even the players, coming out right now with displeasure isn't the end of the world. It happens more than you think. But, it's still a bit surprising to me. And it could affect players next year. And I don't necessarily know, like you said. I mean, we'll see Brandon Harris for 3 games, but there's going to be a whole new group of players in next year. So it'll be interesting to see what they look to try to do down these final 3 games. If there's any changes that are made, just to try to see, what they kind of believe was the problem with Bellantoni at the helm. If anything changes with Harris at the helm, that's kind of what I'm going to look for over these next 3 games defensively. Is maybe are there different guys playing potentially? Are they more blitz heavy? Are they more man zone heavy? Stuff like that, where maybe they believe that changes needed to be made, and that they want to see what they can get out of the guys they have. In their mind, if they're running something that's working. I guess, they believe that the defense wasn't working. So now they'll get a chance to try to switch that up and see if they can get what they thought out of the group that they have. And if not, then, obviously they're going to have to make some changes this offseason, both personnel wise and player wise. And I think personnel changes are coming regardless. That's the reality of the sport. Even if FAU had a pretty good season, odds are they would still lose some players. Now, it just might be a couple more. So definitely a bit surprising, but that's college football. That's business. If you're not having success, things happen. Unfortunate things happen.
Look, so I'm looking at all their games so far this year. All right, I got them in front of me. And Michigan State, which personally, I said this week one, you kind of throw that game away. First game of the season, neither team's comfortable. Neither team is going to be on their A game for the most part. But the score was 16-10. FAU lost. The following week they played Army, and it was 24-7. They held Army to 24 points. It kind of sucked at that day because, all right, we're 0-2. Here we go again, blah, blah, blah. But, and it wasn't really known yet that what a powerhouse Army was going to become. And they held them to 24 points. But then they had FIU, which, again, no disrespect to anyone, but you don't really look at that as a major. I get it. It's the Shula Bowl, and everybody's excited, and they're stomping on helmets. And
it shouldn't be that big of a win.
So, but now we go Connecticut, 48-14 loss. We beat Wagner 41-10, but does Wagner rank higher or lower than FIU on the scale of goofs that are on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, FIU lost to a school in Wagner's conference, I believe, Monmouth. So, take that as you will.
Yeah, Monmouth. I mean, that's not even a school. That's a racetrack, Monmouth Park. There ain't nothing else there in Jersey. But then the wheels fell off because you had North Texas 41-37 loss, UTSA 38-24 loss, South Florida, which this all started last year. I know the whole thing with the handshake and all that crap that's going on right now, but if I was the coach of the opposing team and I was down by 60 points with very little time left in the fourth quarter and the opposing coach hit me with an onside kick, I'd be pretty pissed off for a very long time too. And I'd be out for revenge the next game. So they got shellacked against South Florida. And then against East Carolina, who East Carolina is not that much of a joke.
Not anymore.
They scored a ton of points.
They fired their coach. Look what happened for them.
Yeah, so the point that I'm giving here is this. Yeah, the defense has not been good, but the offense has been equally as bad, if not worse. So
Yeah.
how is this really fixing our problems? And instead of losing 49-14, if we lose 29-14, does that really make it any better at the end of the day?
I mean, that's the question. I mean, and it's kind of like it seems as if well, Tom Herman made these types of moves after year three at Texas. He went 7-5 in year three, which at FAU, if he won 7-5, people would probably throw a parade. But he went 7-5 at Texas, and that's not good enough at Texas. So he had to fire his he had to fire his defensive coordinator, who, fun fact, is now the defensive coordinator at USF. So that's probably why they were very happy to beat them. But so Herman fired Todd Orlando. Then he also reassigned Tim Beck, his offensive coordinator, and fired two other staffers as well that year at Texas. He went on to get fired the next year. And he had a pretty good year too. He won 6-3 in a COVID-shortened season, won a bowl game. But again, that's Texas. He's 3 losses. It's not cutting it. But
For the Cowboys, that's a good season, though.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it kind of seems as if it's already the same thing already happened at FAU earlier in the season. It was announced that Tom Herman was going to be taking a larger role in the play calling department. That sounds exactly to what he did to Tim Beck in demoting him. Now, whether it's soft demoting Charlie Fry or actually demoting him, you can debate that. But he already took part of the play calling abilities away from him. Now he's fired the defensive coordinator while also firing other staffers and Ed Warner. And so, that did not work at Texas. It could work this time, but it's kind of tough to pinpoint where exactly the struggles were, because if you can't fire the offensive coordinator for offensive struggles if he's not calling the plays. At that point, the blame could potentially be on Tom Herman, because he is also calling plays. They're collaborating in it. So there's involvement in the offense too much from Tom Herman, in my opinion, for them to have fired Charlie Fry right now, especially with his already taking over part of the play calling. If they were to have fired Charlie Fry, all the play calling would then be on Tom Herman. There aren't many offensive assistants on staff that could potentially step into that quarterback coach type of role that Charlie Fry fills. And so it's potentially, they felt that it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of a political move. When you're struggling like this, somebody's got to get fired. And unfortunately, they believed that Rock Bellantoni was the path to go. Fortunately, I'm saying unfortunately from the point of Rock Bellantoni, who's a great guy by all accounts, really involved in the South Florida community. And so, but for FAU, they had to make a move of some sort. The results haven't been there, both on the field, off the field. They're getting solid recruits, but now they're going to have to make sure the defensive ones stay. So it was a little, they can't really pinpoint the blame, but that's the way they chose to go.
All right, role play with me for a minute. All right, you're the AD. I'm the head coach, and we just got shellacked game after game after game after game. All right. And every week in the press conference, we're going to turn over every stone. We're going to figure out what's going on. I'm going to get these guys to believe in themselves. I believe the word that was used was perplexed. Was that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just basically perplexed, which when I watched that press conference, what I heard, and it doesn't matter what you say, it's what people hear, what they see in your facial expressions, your body language. What I heard was, I don't have a friggin' clue what's going on here, and I don't know how to fix it. So you're the AD, and you hear me in the press conference week after week after week, and everybody, for some reason, was under the illusion at the beginning of last season that because we hired Tom Herman, we're going to the NCAA football playoffs, and we're going to – no, right or wrong. I mean, the excitement was extreme.
Yeah.
And when I look, and there's none of this is disrespectful. This is me trying to look objectively. I know some guys on the team. They're great guys. Everyone I've ever met on the team was a really good guy, except for one who transferred out. And he was probably the one good piece on the team last year, the big piece. And, he dipped out of here because I get it. I hear all the excuses and all the reasons we don't have money, the NIL, blah, 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 blah. But really smart move for a guy to dip out like that because he wasn't going to get paid here. He wasn't going to win here. And he's probably not big enough or good enough to go on past college.
He
Not
could
in a
get
big,
drafted now.
not in a big way to make, some major bucks. So he dips out, and to his credit, he's having a really good year, and he's having a good time. He's on a winning team. But anyway, back to the question that I was going to ask you is, if you're the AD, right after you hear that press conference where I say, I don't know what the hell's going on here, and I don't know how to fix it, are you coming down on me? I mean, was Herman pressured to do this? Is this because the fish always thinks at the head as far as I go. Any business I've ever run, somebody screws up, it means I screwed up. It doesn't sound like the locker room is very tight. I'm pretty confident they don't believe in themselves because I've heard the head coach say this 10,000 times. And for the record, I love Tom Herman. He's been nothing but fantastic with me. We've talked to him. He's a great guy. But put that aside, on the Owl's Nest Facebook page where the message boards now are and people are on there chatting, everyone, I don't know if you saw this or not, everyone is screaming for Herman to get fired.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a large crowd of the FAU fan base that want Herman fired. And, there's been portions in the press conference where he has admittedly, said, I am not sure why we are not, pulling out these close ball games. Against East Carolina, the defense, he's had a laundry list of defensive issues. And, that's definitely concerning. It is only year two in a place where the last regime kind of left the cupboard a little bit, not, it wasn't dry. There was actually pieces left over, but it wasn't a full transition of guys to where you could win in year one. So, and then a lot of those pieces left that were remaining. And so this year was really building a roster. So some struggles this year are, in my opinion, all right. Obviously with the schedule they had, they should be making a bowl game and doing better than that. But that's not how it works sometimes in college football. But the real concerning part is that there's no progress being made, right? You won 4 games last year. You're winning 2 games this year. You lost the USF game. You won last year. The offense is worse, a lot worse. And Herman's an offensive guy. And I get it. Now Cam Fancher's injured. So that's going to give the offense some leeway to still potentially, find new pieces. Maybe Case and Wiseman takes over, whatnot. But the fact is, the
Wiseman looked impressive to me when he stepped in that game. I mean, he was slinging the ball all over the field,
and that's against a tough defense too.
Yeah, I liked what I saw.
But they need there has been no progress. The offense struggled. The defense last year allowed, I believe it was 3 touchdowns or less in 9 of 12 games. They've allowed 35 plus, including 40 in 5 out of their 6 last games, which is just not that's not getting the job done. And when there's no progress being made, as an AD, you probably have. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. It hasn't been reported. It hasn't been leaked or anything. But
you're supposed to be the insider, dude. Don't you have the room bugged?
Let me just get a little one of those cameras you can put through the wall and I'll spy. But it kind of seems like a conversation was potentially had between Brian White and Tom Herman. Brian White's at all the press conferences. His family's there as well sometimes, and they're very invested in this program. And Brian White is an aggressive AD. He wants to win. So there's probably a conversation that was had, and talking about the future, the direction of this program, and I'm sure. Herman brought up this idea, or I don't know necessarily how it happened, but this was the solution that he came to. Maybe he came to it on his own. I don't know, but I don't think it's enough, those comments and the struggles yet are enough to fire Herman because it's year two and you're at a place where outside of a couple years from Lane Kiffin, it's not really a consistent winner. So you have
But
to
when,
build something here.
but when you come into a bad situation, you get a bad result in year one. Wouldn't you expect it to get a little bit better? I mean, even if you take it a step further and look at personnel, and again, I'm not going to name names, but personnel that was there last year, personnel that's there this year. Okay, people that stayed, people that didn't dip out on the portal. Are you really seeing anything like here? So I'm not calling this person out, but I'm going to ask this because I don't know the question. Where the hell is Zeke?
Yeah.
Where
Um,
is he? He showed small glimpses of whoa, we got something pretty cool here last
yeah. I
season.
mean, it just kind of seems like the tight end room, it hasn't been as involved in the offense. Um, the offensive struggles are definitely a bit of an issue. And I'm forgetting what was the general question you asked.
Are you seeing any progress
No.
in you know? I said Zeke. Zeke was there. I'm not pointing Zeke. I'm not saying that he's regressed. I haven't seen him enough to know if he's progressed or regressed. But guys that are on the field every day, guys on the O line, guys that are defensive linebackers, people that were solid parts of last year's team and are still solid parts of this year's team. Have they moved forward at all? Because I
That's
don't from a distance. I'm not on top of it like you are, but I'm not seeing it.
that the lack of progress is definitely the thing that's most damning about this kind of the struggles that they're having. As I mentioned, 4-8 in year one. Now you're at 2 wins, and you lost the one game that you won last year, the big rivalry game versus USF. So that's concerning. And also, the it doesn't seem there's been a bit of development. Barry Mobley looks a lot better than he did last year, and that's development. He's also hurt a little bit last year, but the concerning there hasn't been the big developmental piece. I will say is also Omari Hayes at the wide receiver position. He's kind of taken over for LeJontay Wester, but outside of that, it's really been there hasn't been much progress from last year. The offensive line has given up as many sacks as it did in the whole entire season in just I believe 9 games now. So that's definitely been a bit of a struggle. But at times they've played well. Like against North Texas, I think they only allowed 5 total pressures the whole game. They still end up losing. So there's different things that plague this team every week, and that's the concerning part. Is because no one is consistent. It's not it's just not clicking. And you hope at this point each team needs to learn how to win games. That's the most important. You have to be able to close. You have to figure out how to pull these games out, and FAU hasn't done that. They haven't figured out how to be that closer, figure out how to overcome adversity. And firing Rock Bellantoni, firing Ed Warner isn't going to fix that. It's not going to win you. Firing 2 coaches isn't going to win you ball games. You hope the new coaches you bring in maybe connect with the players better. Although I will say Rock was well connected with everybody on the team. Everybody loved him, as we've seen on social media. So you kind of, maybe the scheme is a little bit more what if you're Tom Herman, if is maybe the scheme is what you believe will be better. I don't know, but firing coordinators, firing assistant coaches isn't going to fix the glaring problems that this team has, and that's just simply lack of execution. They are not. It's 3rd down and 7, and they're missing reads. It's 3rd down and 7 on the defensive side of the ball, and somebody's in the wrong coverage. It's just different things that happen that make it very, very tough to win ball games. And firing 2 coordinators isn't going to fix it. So we'll see how they go about this offseason, bringing in new pieces. We talked all off this season. This offseason, the point of emphasis was culture, and I'm not seeing much of a culture. I mean, we hear nobody's come into the press conferences or lashed out on social media. So if a culture means, not speaking out of turn, being respectable, I guess, but there hasn't been any on the field type of culture. There's nothing that's glaringly different, in my opinion, last year. In the offseason, it felt that way. It felt like potentially this season was going to be the year FAU is back, quote unquote, in football, but did not turn out that way, and we'll see what they do to try to change that again this offseason.
How much worse does it make this right now for the football team that basketball has kicked off, and be it they were two soft games, but the basketball team did what they were supposed to do, and they did it very excitingly. And then Jake is coming in, and I mean, think about this from an AD standpoint, or just I don't know, just from any sort of mindset. Jacobs comes in, he literally has to put a whole new team together, an entirely new team, and he does it. And they go out and they look fantastic through two games. And I get what the two games are. Whoever they played this Friday night, I didn't know the game was until about 2 hours before the game. And B, that team must have been so bad that I could not get a line on it to bet on the game on any sportsbook, period.
Nope.
I'm like, and then I was going crazy. Like, is there a game? Is there not a game? What am I missing? I go to the schedule. Schedule says there's a game. I go back to the book. Then I go to another book. Then I go to another book. There was nothing anywhere.
They were NIA, so you can't bet on games against NAIA opponents because you could anybody. There's like nothing to prevent Bill and Ted going to sign up for an NAIA college and starting it up and throwing games. It'd be very, very easy to throw games at the NAIA level, so they cannot. They can't bet on those types of games. But yeah, it definitely does. Might at least put a little bit of a sting on Tom Herman's back. I mean, as you mentioned, two easy-ish opponents. Indiana State, they were right on the borderline of the NCAA tournament last season. They lose all their pieces, and they struggled. So it's very easy to not be able to rebuild your team. And Jacobs has been able to, and they've won by 50 and 40 points. So they did exactly what they should. They have a big test on Tuesday against UCF, a game against a team that just beat a top 15 NCAA opponent in Texas A&M, did UCF. So that's a team that a win in that game, that's something you put on your resume to go to the NCAA tournament when you're looking at an at-large bid. So it's going to be a big test, but if they win that game, there's not much difference, in my opinion, than the team last year or the team the year before had a really big level of continuity. Last year's team didn't have that level of continuity, but this team has they're very connected. I mean, the guy who led the team in points against Indiana State, Nico Moretti, had 19 points. It looked like he was going to, everyone was like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be the next Michael Jordan, whatever. Comments were going crazy. Next game he only has, I think he had 7 points, but he also had 8 assists. So this team is very selfless, in my opinion, and I think they've got a chance to be pretty good. And hey, if basketball keeps winning, at some point, UConn made that decision to take a break from football for a little bit. They went independent, left the AAC, and look at their basketball program. Look at it. They have won now 3 national championships in a row since joining the Big East, or two national championships in a row, and they're not going anywhere. So the football program is now better too. So hey, maybe that's the path to success. I don't know.
I don't know. So with 3 games left on the schedule, Temple, Charlotte, and Tulsa. Don't be a homer. What do they possibly have a chance to win here?
Well, Temple is a funny battle right off the rip because Stan Drayton, the head coach of Temple, was on Tom Herman's staff at University of Texas. I believe he was his top assistant when Tom Herman was at Texas. Now he's the head coach of Temple, and Herman's coming in with FAU with 2 of the worst teams in the conference, unfortunately for them. So that's an interesting battle in that, right? I mean, 2 coaches who were at Texas together now struggling. But hey, that's a game for either side to take and grab some momentum. Maybe both sides not having a good season. Temple, they've got some pieces. The thing with Temple is they don't have much of a run game, which when teams don't have a run game against FAU, they've actually fared pretty solid this season. Excuse me. But even North Texas, so they didn't have much of a run game. They ended up just passing for 400-some yards and winning that game. So No guarantees at all. But the Case and Wiseman starting this game, I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table, and I think they could potentially win this game. But Charlotte and even Tulsa, they're gearing up to potentially try to make a push for a late bowl game. Tulsa, they found a little bit of uh, luck there against UTSA a couple weeks ago, getting their quarterback in there, and so now. They're going to be pushing for a bowl game potentially last week of the season, the same way Rice was when FAU went to Rice. And you're thinking last year, oh, no way FAU loses to Rice. Well, yeah, you're playing a team that wants to go to a bowl game. They're actually, decent. They're going to beat you. So I think FAU best goes 1-2 down this stretch. I think knowing how, as a former student, how things go in terms of the fan base, I do think Charlotte versus FAU, unfortunately, is going to be one of the least attended games in quite a while. Right around Thanksgiving break, a lot of students going home already, and now on top of that, potentially going in that game 2-8, 3-7, nothing on the table. You just fired your coordinators. Not looking good for attendance that game, and I think that game, if they lose that one in a bad way, could be a big slap in the face potentially to um, the team as a whole. That would be very defeating. You lose in front of a very empty FAU stadium to a Charlotte team, which has had its fair share of issues at times this season. So, I mean, I'm hoping that's not the case, but I was a student for 4 years. I know. I mean, Tulane last year, number 24 team in the country, was really bad attendance, and even then that got boosted because a ranked team was playing. Now you're going to get a Charlotte team that's under 500 in there. It's not going to go good. So I'm saying one win most down the stretch, but I could see them going winless. And if they go winless, I'm not. I don't think there's a chance they fire Tom Herman, but that could get the conversation at least starting, as if they don't win a game down this stretch.
Is it because the team sucks that no one shows up? Because basketball, and I understand smaller, much, 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 much smaller facility, but the place is jamming. It's rocking. There's a vibe in that building. Am I correct? I
Yeah,
mean, teams
yeah,
don't
it's
want to
really
go
good.
and play there. I mean, it's a slightly oversized version of a high school gym. Not being disrespectful, but it's not a stadium. It's not an arena. It's not what you
It's
get at
like a
some other
field house.
places. Yeah. Um, there's vibe around softball. And this is about what happened today, so I'm not going to get into it. But I've been following this hockey team. There's a vibe around this hockey team. There's no vibe around football when it comes to the atmosphere inside the stadium. It's almost like being in a library sometimes. Is it because they stink? I mean, if the team was running off 7 wins in a row, would we fill half the stadium, or is it just the
I
same
do.
thing?
I do think it definitely would be well attended if they were a winning team. Now, it wouldn't be great. It's still pretty big, and you're going to have consistent winning to build up fans that want to, come back consistently, especially the end zones, where you're going to just need to find diehard people who want to sit in those end zones and be an FAU fan consistently. And for that to happen, you need consistent winning. I've always been an advocate of go out, invite every middle school, elementary school, high school, have them fill the stands up, give them memories, be the place where they hang out on a Saturday. Bring on like I don't I'm not the marketing guy, but I feel like that's a way to build up fans from a young base. You go up, you're a kid, you're in elementary school, and you grow up, and you're like, oh yeah, I'd go to the FAU games every Saturday. You could say, they sucked, but at least it was fun. That's the type of fans they need to build up. And I don't know if that's necessarily possible, but yeah, I do think winning would definitely at least help the student turnout, get that student section rocking every game, and that'll kind of carry the energy from there. Because even for the basketball game, this one against Coastal Georgia, the student side was sold out, and then the other side was not, and that's just how it is. But they were still loud, and they were still crazy, and that was led by the students who were also very loud and crazy. So
And,
winning helps a lot, though.
but it does go. And Joe said winning creates and builds the vibe. Um, yes, I agree to a point. But I asked two former players, What's the difference between playing in a packed house and an empty stadium? And they said the difference is huge. It's very hard. It's much easier to get up in front of a packed house, even if you're on the road, than it is. And it's even more depressing when we run out on home field and see nothing but seats, empty seats. So, my question to FAU, I guess, is what the hell are you doing to market and to get these young fans in? I mean, I see like bring a can of soup or bring a box of cereal and get a free ticket, but that's not bringing anybody in. What are they doing? This is the chicken and the egg, but you need both of these things together. You need a chicken to have an egg.
You can bring the boom. That's what they tried to do, and I mean that worked. That got a pretty decent amount of fans in there.
Did they stay for the game?
No, that's the thing though. Is like you do marketing gimmicks like that, you run the risk of people leaving. And just like last year, Kodak got people in as well. And so they do things like that. They bring in Kodak, they bring in the Boomer Doom. But they're very good at bringing in high school recruits for football to come visit. But what are they doing to bring in the local high schoolers from Boca High to come to the game, or the local elementary kids from Boca Elementary, whatever? And so that's the type of stuff they need to do. They've done Kids Day in the past and stuff like that, but it needs to be consistent efforts to. And I mean, the marketing team does a great job with basketball, but it's tough to market for a losing team. That's just how it is. You
Yeah,
need
but this is a real simple. You're gonna bring the boom in. You bring them in at halftime.
hmm
You bring them in at halftime. So you play a really good game, a competitive game for the first half. Everybody's into the game. Then they get the boom, and then they stay for the game. Or you bring Kodak out at halftime. You do a
yeah.
mini little halftime show.
They
Have them
did.
sing a song or two.
They had him do it pregame last time, and then
They did it in the tailgate, right? Didn't they?
yeah, they did it
Yeah.
at the student tailgate. Yep.
The tailgate sells out every week, from what I understand.
Yeah. Oh, the place is packed out, but not everyone goes to the game. Not even I wouldn't say even half those people went to the game. I
But
was
if
one of them.
Kodak,
Sometimes I would.
but if Kodak was performing at halftime, would they have gone into the stadium?
Oh, absolutely. People would
I
sit
mean,
anywhere too. They'd sit on the second deck, and so that's the type of things that where it's like why are we only having them do an autograph signing before the game, and then they had them do different gimmicks, but once people you need to have them do the autograph signing after the game. That's
hmm
like the and things like that. They do the kick at halftime, the field goal, the biggest boom, then you're doing all this stuff throughout the game, then you want to get their autograph after. And they won too, so that would have been a little bit better, but overall they do a really good job with basketball. They have that place rock, and they brought in different celebrities last year, like Jimmy Butler, was there and stuff like that. So, like I said, with basketball, it's working. With football, it's not. And so it's tough, but it's tough though because you need the wins, but you also need the atmosphere to help create those wins. So, it's tough to win in Florida, or it's tough to build a fan base in Florida when they're not winning. Dolphins empty, Marlins empty, Heat empty when they're all bad. Same thing at FAU.
if South Florida is other than soccer, South Florida is just a horrible, horrible, horrible sports market. Period. That's it. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
Inter Miami seems to be always full, but that's it.
that's
Nothing
it.
else
Yeah,
goes.
and it's college football as well. It's like it's not a lot of people are not into college football. A lot of people are, but there's also a section of the world that's only into pro sports, and I think it's probably bigger if I had to guess. So it's tough losing college football in Boca Raton, which isn't like the biggest city. It's pretty big, but it's not, Miami. And so it's tough. It's tough to build. And I just, these two moves, I don't necessarily know if firing Rock Bellantoni and Ed Warner is going to put fans in the seats, but they hope it leads to wins, which will then put fans in the seats. So that's what it goes back to.
I hope it does. I wish them both. I wish them both well. They're good guys, and I'm sure
Indeed.
they'll end up completely fine and on their feet somewhere real quick.
Yeah, 100%. I think I don't know necessarily. Potentially, Rock has kids in college that play baseball at LaSalle. They're going to be the season's coming right around the corner, so it'll be good at least for him to get to see that. Won't have to do any crazy plane trips or anything like that to go up and down back to LaSalle. So that'll be good. And yes, I think they will 100%. I think Rock can find a job pretty safely. He was just at Auburn before here, and there's P5 jobs who like experienced coordinators like him. And Ed has been a million different places. I'm sure there's a school out there who will definitely take his O-line services. So they will be fine, and I think FAU will. I don't know if they'll be fine, but we'll see the moves that they make. We'll see the moves that they make to try to replace them and see how it works out. Next season's going to be the do or die for sure for FAU football. And we'll see it. We'll see if they do or they die. And then basketball on Tuesday, folks. If you want coverage of that, we'll have you live on FAU Owl's Nest. We'll be live. I think the game starts at 7, so we'll have our live article with updates as well as some video updates. We'll have Christian Prosh out there doing some pictures and videos as well. So look for all that stuff, and even our guy Drew Shula may be making the trip to do something. I don't know. We might have to put him on a unicycle or something and have him go get some fan content or something, but we shall see. UCF FAU, that's a big game on Tuesday. Make sure to tune into that if you're an Owls fan. We'll hopefully come back to Boca with a win. That win could do a lot for him, could get him back in the national media conversation. But I think that's all we got for you folks tonight.
Can I give one shout out?
Oh, yeah, give them out.
Friday night at the Boca Ice, the FAU Hockey Club Division III team. So they have a 2 and they have a 3. And last night I went and checked out the 3. All right. FAU football in their last 2 games has scored 21, 31, 35 points. All right. In a home and home series against UNF this week, the Division III team scored 32 goals. They won 16-3 last night and 16-1 the second night. This is no FAU. These hockey teams are really effing good. The 2 and the 3, but the 3 it was insane. You just could not keep up with it. And what was amazing was last night's 16-3 victory was a come from behind win because they fell behind 1-0 a minute into the game, and then it was just goal. The over-under, you got to put an over-under on this hockey team at 21.5 goals every single game. They're nuts. It's a really good time. It's a lot of fun. There's a really good vibe there. So if there's nothing else going on in FAU sports or in Florida or in your life Friday night, check the FAU Hockey Club website for the exact time, but it's at Boca Ice. It's the D3 team. And then after that, I don't know. This is like European soccer. I think they go on a winter international break and they don't play again until mid-January. But these are really fun teams to watch.
You heard it here, FAU D3 hockey. They're making a rise. They used to be just a club, and now they're working their way up, getting their classifications. Could come knocking on the door. NCAA hockey always an interesting postseason battles going on. Maybe we'll see FAU taking on Denver, Minnesota one day. That'd be a crazy matchup. But we'll keep an eye on FAU hockey. We'll keep an eye on FAU hoops, and we'll definitely keep an eye on FAU football just in case anything crazy comes of it. FAU softball, FAU baseball, right around the corner. Make sure to tune in Toby Shulman for some baseball coverage soon enough, folks. But thank you so much for tuning into our special edition of the Lastella Report here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Until next time, for AJ Johnson, I'm Robbie Lastella. We'll see you next time.